exactly what I expect. I need you to fight hard. I want you to fight clean. Keep yourself protected. When I say stop, you stop. If you want to touch, do it now. God bless.
I considered Paulo Costa to be Khamzat Chimaev's initial opponent, but not so long ago a completely different fight was organized for the Brazilian, and now it is not clear who will be the next for the Greyhound. Of the tops of the middleweight and welterweight division, only Colby Covington is free, and then, given what problems the American has now, he is not up to fighting, but as soon as he deals with them, the fight against Chimaev is the most realistic of all possible. Hello everyone, Fighters Are With You MMA Predictions channel. In this video, I will give a prediction for the most intriguing fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Colby Covington. But before starting this video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so that as many people as possible can notice this video. Now, Khamzat Chimaev is the most popular fighter in the UFC. Each of his fights is awaited by many fans around the world. Recently, he was supposed to meet with Nate Diaz at the legendary numbered tournament, but due to the fact that Chimaev could not make a weight, the card was radically changed. And as a result, Khamzat had a fight of a higher category against the chattering Kevin Holland. You all saw for yourself Chimaev did not leave a single chance to strangle the American in the first round. Before that, he also dominated each of his opponents. The only one who could compete with him was Gilbert Burns. The rest of Khamzat's rivals were brightly finished in the first round, maximum in the second. Colby Covington is going through a tough time right now. I don't mean his professional career. He's doing great there. I mean his personal life. Colby is now conducting a legal investigation with Jorge Masvidal. On the eve of their fight, they clashed as never before. Friends became enemies. It seemed that after the fight they found out everything. But no, in one of the restaurants where Colby was resting, Masvidal unexpectedly flew in and was able to enter a couple of blows to Covington's face. As a result, Chaos filed a complaint and the investigation is still underway. I think they will soon come to an end and the most Jorge will get off with his corrective labor. But right now, let's analyze one of the hype fights at this time. I'm sure the UFC will benefit from this fight, since a lot of fans will watch this fight. The fighters will promote it as much as possible. In general, it will definitely not be boring. Percussion style. Let's start with Khamzat. As you all know very well, Chimaev preaches wrestling, and in the UFS he used the stance, well, very rarely. That's where Khamzat's skills were clearly visible, so it was in the duel against Burns. With the Brazilians, they fought to glory. Chimaev in that fight showed that he has a decent stance. He holds a blow well, plus he hits well. Khamzat is a wrestler, and almost all wrestlers have a good punch. An example is not worth looking for a long time. Khabib versus Conor. The second round, a hard right overhand hit exactly on the jaw of the Irishman, and he was knocked down for the first time in his career. Chimaev has the same style. He has many fights where he was able to knock out his opponent. Gerard Meerschaert felt all the Chechen strength of the Greyhound, and Aliskerov was also unlucky. He was also able to feel the strong punch bores. In the fight against Covington, the striking power can help him. Since the American has problems with the holder, he has repeatedly fallen into knockdowns. Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal were able to lower him to the 5th point, and given the power of Borscht, he is also quite capable of catching Colby and dropping him. So now let's move on to the punching technique of the former challenger. As we know, Covington does not have power in his punches. He works exactly on the quantity. Just look at the statistics of punches in the fight against Robbie Lawler. Then he really surprised me. As in the case of Khamzat, Colby is a pronounced wrestler, but he also feels comfortable in the rack, especially since he has grown a lot in this regard recently. According to Kamaru Usman, his striking power has grown significantly since their first fight. As I said above, Covington has often been knocked down lately. First, he was knocked out by Kamaru Usman. In the second fight, he fell 2 times, but he was able to survive. In the fight against the Cuban, he also praised not bad punch. punch and was one step away from another knockout defeat. In the fight with Chimaev, he needs to be extremely careful, otherwise the outcome of the first fight with Kamaru will be repeated. What can be said in the end? It is very difficult to choose a favorite here, since one has a heavy blow and the second has repeatedly fought in the standing position where he showed a good level. But due to his youth, I will believe in Khamzat more. Colby is already 33. He can be said to have passed his peak, and a crazy blow from Chimaev can destroy his career. Playing from the bottom. In this regard, both fighters are masters of their craft. Colby spent almost all of his fights on the ground floor. His freestyle style is felt in every fight. Takedowns, pressing, this is the description of every chaos fight. But judging by the latest events, when wrestlers meet in the octagon, they fight on their hands. But the fight in this fight should not be ruled out. Colby doesn't care what kind of regalia you have in the wrestling spheres. He tried to translate Kamara. He had no problem fighting such eminent fighters as Woodley, Masvidal, Dos Anjos. It can be said that all his career in the main promotion of the world he fights with representatives of the top level, and in almost all fights his fight did not fail. Only in the duel against Uthman, but there you don't go to a fortune teller either. It's clear why Chaos didn't use wrestling. I really want to see how he will fight Khamzat, although given his previous fights, he can again spend the entire fight in the rack. So now let's move on to Khamzat Chimaev's wrestling skills, and everything there is also at a high level. From early childhood, he performed and won major competitions. He also rebuilt his freestyle wrestling skills in MMA. Thereby he dominates every fighter with whom he is put up. As soon as he got into the UFS, he had no equal in wrestling, transfer and tough ground and pound. This is how his fights ended until he met with representatives of the top 5 Gilbert Burns. That evening, after the first round, Chimaev realized that it was dangerous to work in wrestling and therefore switched to standing. But in the very next fight, he again got a one-sided striker, whom he easily transferred and strangled. While it's too early to talk about wrestling skills, he should test his wrestling style with a good wrestler. Opponents like Kamaru Usman or Colby Covington are ideal. The favorite in this fight due to his experience will be Colby. He has fought and wrestled with better wrestlers than Borscht. Cardio plus spirit. What can be said about cardio? Khamzat only once passed the 3-round distance, and then he did not show himself in the best way. At the end of the third, in the duel with Burns, he somehow held his hands, and the fight with Covington will 100% be held in the main event of the numbered tournament. And, of course, the fight regulations will be 5 versus 5. I don't know what the Greyhound needs to do to reach the end of the 5th round, and at the same time he feels comfortable. In such a short time he will hardly be able to change anything, only if he joins the Nurmagomedov camp. But I don't have any questions about Colby's stamina at all. He is a real cardio maniac. He brings every fight to the end of the 5th round, and more than once he did not give us a reason to doubt us about his gas tank. As Covington himself states, the secret of his infinite endurance is simple. Every day he does 4 hours of cardio workouts in bed. That's all Fayorit is known in cardio. I think if I don't mention his name, you will already understand who he is. In terms of spirit, Bors will be better since he enters the octagon primarily for the sake of the legacy, and then comes fame and money. Forecast. Most likely you will not like my prediction, but I must voice it. Colby Covington will beat Chimaev by decision. But before you throw tomatoes at the screen, hear me out. Chimaev is unlikely to be able to finish Colby, as it is not an easy task. Covington was finished only by Usman, and in terms of skills, Kamaru and Khamzat differ at the level of space.